The Cutie Mark Crusaders learned from the main six how the Sonic Rainboom helped each get their Cutie Mark and cemented their friendship even before they all knew each other. But I have a hunch that we learned more about Cutie Mark magic than we might have realized. First, what didn't the Rainboom do? Well, for starters, it didn't directly cause all the main six Cutie Marks to manifest. Since the Sonic Rainboom happened near Cloudsdale, let's start with Fluttershy. She falls to the ground but is saved by a swarm of butterflies, discovers how amazing the ground is and all the animals that inhabit it. The Rainboom detonates overhead, scaring all the animals around her, prompting Fluttershy to reach out to them to want to help them, because she was scared just a few moments ago herself. It isn't until she starts to commune with those animals, to comfort them, well after the Rainboom happened, that her Cutie Mark finally manifests. Going by Rarity's story and surroundings, it's possible to infer she was living near Ponyville. The schoolhouse, the lay of the land outside her window, her Philly-age sewing room, looking just like her current upstairs inspiration room. This was definitely not an urban metropolis like Manhattan. Also, if she was just starting out as a designer, she'd likely have built up her first shop near where she lived. Maybe even in her own Phillyhood house. Her parents could have sold the place to her, keeping her near Canterlot without needing to relocate right away. It's a great business decision. She'd make her sales with low overhead so she could save up for a dedicated shop in Canterlot proper later. Don't forget, in the timeline where Summer and the Crystal Empire are taking over, Applejack knew of Rarity even though she'd moved out of her house to help with the war efforts a while ago. So, fully a day in advance of the Rainboom, Rarity's horn lights up and takes her on an overnight trip out through the countryside, across some deserts, over hills, and through the rough land to a stone outcropping. Moments later, the Sonic Rainboom splits open the rock, revealing it to be a geode with gems inside that she could use. Recall that she was able to hear the Rainboom, then saw it, and because much of the curve of the Rainboom was still visible, she wasn't too far from the epicenter, so not that far from Cloudsdale really, and not too far from Ponyville either. It wasn't until much later during the stage performance that evening that Rarity's Cutie Mark finally materialized. A bit further away is the Pie Rock Farm and Pinky. Just as before with Rarity, she heard and saw the explosion, but the curve of the Rainboom was less pronounced, meaning she would have been further from the epicenter than Rarity, and she did see the trail Rainbow left behind, headed up towards Cloudsdale. The Rainboom inspired Pinky to do something with those colors to bring that liveliness home, and she did it with a surprise party for her family. It wasn't until the next morning when her Cutie Mark finally materialized. So now we move further away and make it to Manhattan and Applejack. For her, there was no explosion, but there was a rainbow drawn into the sky, angled towards the Apple Farm and consequently Ponyville. Meaning Manhattan was likely the furthest away, so no sound, but still close enough to see the rainbow streak in the sky. This inspired AJ to make her way home and reconnect with farm and family, and that's when her Cutie Mark materialized. This brings us right up close to the explosion itself. Canterlot and Twilight sparkle. This time we can definitively say the Rainboom did cause a Cutie Mark, but might not have been the way we thought. Twilight is in Canterlot for her placement exams for magical ability when the Rainboom detonates very close by. The energies push Twilight into magical overload, but in a very specific way. Her eyes glow. She levitates. She performs not only the Dragon Egg Hatchling spell, but polymorphs her family and age progresses Spike. This last part is of major significance. When Twilight and Trixie have a magical duel, Trixie says it's a simple age spell while wearing the Alicorn amulet. Her reaction when Twilight seems to perform the same spell shows She was not expecting a unicorn, even one as talented as Twilight, to be able to perform such a complex or powerful spell. When Twilight seems to cast a single spell to age up and down Rarity and Applejack at the same time, Trixie was flabbergasted at the power and skill needed to do that. Even Twilight herself admitted afterwards that even she couldn't make those spells work on her own as an adult. For a filly to make that happen as well seems simply not possible. So Celestia sees Spike crash through the roof and goes to investigate and says, "I don't think I've come across a unicorn with your raw abilities." And truth be told, she still hasn't. She found something else in Twilight. But we've got a huge problem. If Twilight was that unready with her magical abilities, shown by her not being able to hatch Spike, why was she even given an entrance interview for the School for Gifted Unicorns? It's because Celestia did it. Shining Armor was able to create a magical shield per his cutie mark, but his mark also holds the element of magic's gem design to it, meaning Shining might have already been primed to become the next element bearer. Celestia would have known this on sight, but it wasn't quite right. After all, his ability was in protection magic, not in the use of magic as its own force. Something was missing. Some pony was missing. The element was asserting itself, announcing itself in Shining Armor's mark. So, who might be the next logical pony to check for that influence? That's right, Shining's blank flank sister, who doesn't show that she's the next bearer until the Sonic Rainboom overcharges her, making the element of magic shape resonate and imprint a mark 6 times over. But this is now the hardest part to accept: Rainbow Dash and her cutie mark. We've always thought it was a lightning bolt coming out of the sky, and we might have been wrong. As Celestia said when the element gems were first taken from the Tree of Harmony to fight Discord, even without these elements, the Tree of Harmony will possess a powerful magic. As long as that magic remains, it will continue to control and contain all that grows here. Remember also, as Nightmare Moon was banished to the moon, a Rainboom appeared when she was locked away, the very event that created the old mare's tale about the Sonic Rainboom 1,000 years ago. And now, 1,000 years later, with Discord's seeds slowly growing, slowly draining the tree's power, the tree called out for help, for the elements to be re-energized and brought home. We've always assumed that Rainbow Dash's cutie mark should be understood top to bottom. But what if it was actually bottom to top? If so, then it might show the power of the elements of harmony reaching up from the ground where they've been stored by Celestia, feeding into the clouds and into Rainbow Dash herself, slowly to build up, making her fly faster, giving her more drive and energy until finally it found a way to manifest through her in the form of the Sonic Rainboom. But if we read her cutie mark top to bottom with this context, her cutie mark power is amazingly more specialized than we could have imagined. Rainbow Dash had become the powder keg for the element's 1,000-year delayed fuse. Her Rainboom, a magical ping like echolocation to find the new bearer of the element of magic, to call to them, to infuse them with the energy from the elements themselves and with a similarly unique magical ability. And Twilight's magical form resonated, filled, overcharged, and Celestia had her answer as to who the next element bearer would be. Some pony she could teach, to groom, to prepare for the jobs ahead, to prepare her for when the element's hold on Nightmare Moon would give out. You think Rainbow Dash's cutie mark power is weird from this angle? Wait until you hear what I think Twilight Sparkle's actual cutie mark power is. Because, as you might have guessed, I have a hunch about that too. Until next time, safe travels every pony. I wish you well, and may Luna watch over you.